So I just wanted to make a video on YouTube here because I'm just kind of starting my channel and wanting to start telling my story because I think it's important for other people who might be going through similar situations and just searching for answers. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura. My last name is pronounced Fuchsa, and I live in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I am a nurse, and I have been a nurse for 18 years now. And I have worked in the ICU, I've worked in a surgical hospital, and most recently I worked in the orthopedic clinic and then home health for a few months. And because of my own health journey, I kind of veered from that path, and I started a health coaching business 3 years ago, and then I also became certified as a personal trainer last year, and I'm now working on my functional medicine certification. So that's the professional part about me, but the story that I came here to tell was my personal story of disease and chronic pain, and what has helped to lead me on this journey of kind of veering my nursing profession in a different direction. So I was born and raised in Minnesota. And when I was 3 years old, I had encephalitis, which is a swelling and inflammation of the lining in your brain. And of course, I don't remember that, but from the stories my parents tell me, I was playing outside at the time, and healthy kid. I'd never had any health issues up until then, but they found me outside seizing, and no history of seizures prior to that. I would not stop seizing, so they had to, call the ambulance, and I was later sent to the Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, and then found to have encephalitis, which they thought was from an infected mosquito, is how I obtained that infection. And was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and luckily came away unscathed, so to speak. So I had a healthy childhood up until I was a teenager. I was 14 years old, and my brother, my cousin, and I were on our way to school. My hometown was very small, so my high school that we went to was out in the country. So my brother was driving us, and we were in a car accident. My brother had a traumatic brain injury, and I was not buckled, and I was ejected from the vehicle and had pelvic fractures and other internal injuries, but had to have surgery for the pelvic fracture, and just kind of struggled with pain off and on throughout high school because of that. Just some weakness, I think, probably looking back, but otherwise, again, I was very healthy until I was in my 20s. I had been married for a few years, and just started having random pain in my mid-back, my thoracic area. I remember I woke up, it was on my left side, and I just thought I had slept funny. How sometimes you just have an ache or a pain from laying a certain way, and didn't think much of it, but it just kept nagging at me. And so eventually I just went to the chiropractor and started getting regular adjustments. I don't know how long I went, but I want to say for a few months. And I started doing acupuncture, I started getting massage, anything I could to help stretch. I was doing yoga, that sort of thing, and never really got any relief. I mean, I would get a few hours of relief after I would get adjusted or get a massage. And then we thought, well, maybe it's our bed, and we switched beds. We got a firm mattress, and anyways, so my pain eventually progressed. So starting in my mid-back, then just spread throughout my entire mid-back, and then went up into my shoulders and my neck. And at the time, I was working at the surgical hospital as a nurse, and that was attached to a pain clinic. So I had a couple different trigger point injections. I had an MRI, you know, all that sort of workup, and nothing was really conclusive. So I just kind of went about my life. Well, then at the time, my husband and I were trying to get pregnant, and we're not having any luck with that. So we did artificial insemination, we did IVF, and never did get pregnant on our own. And so eventually then we moved out to the Black Hills, and that's when I was working at the orthopedic clinic, and, you know, just starting to see some of these different conditions, and luckily worked with a PA who did x-rays and did lab work and kind of put the dots together for me, and found out that I had an autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis, which is when your immune system erroneously attacks your spine. So there's inflammation in your spine, your hips, it can go into your shoulders, your neck, and, you know, it can affect different joints and just cause widespread pain and inflammation. And so that was kind of like the aha, like, this is what's been going on. Like, I'm not crazy. And, you know, all along with that, those years and years of pain, I just thought it was because of the car accident, because my, even after I had my pelvic surgery, my hips were still uneven, kind of kittywampus, as I call them. And so I thought, you know, it's just related to that, because my hips are so uneven. And anyways, so I then was referred to a rheumatologist in Rapid City, and kind of standard protocol for that type of disease, you're prescribed immunosuppressants, or Humira was the first drug that I was prescribed to hopefully calm down my immune system so that it would quit attacking my spine. And, you know, they say when you start that it takes about 6 months before you might notice a difference in pain, and it did. It took about that long. I had slight decrease in pain, and then, you know, things kind of shifted and they spread, and I was just having a lot of depression because of the chronic pain and stiffness. And so they put me on antidepressants that would also help with some pain, and she tried some medicine for nerve pain. Gabapentin is the one that she tried me on, and I could only take it at night because it would make me really sleepy. And you know, I could have increased it, but I just didn't want to feel clumsy and foggy all day. And so eventually I stopped taking that. And because of my insurance, then I had to switch the immunosuppressants a couple different times. And, you know, eventually, or all along, when you're on these drugs, your doctor has to monitor your labs, of course. And so one trend that I would notice is my C3 and C4 complement, C3, C4, which basically measures your immune system, continued to drop to below normal levels. And, you know, the only thing my rheumatologist could explain was that because of the immunosuppressants, it was doing that to my numbers. And so eventually then, after I had been on those medications for, I want to say 3 years, I remember it was just before Thanksgiving, I started getting diarrhea. And I hope anybody listening to this doesn't get grossed out, but I'm a medical person and I'm here to tell my story, so I'm telling it like it is. Really bad diarrhea, like 20 times a day. I couldn't keep anything down. I would drink water and it would just like, it would go straight through me. I would, you know, try to drink soup and it was like right away I'd have to go to the bathroom. And then eventually it led to vomiting. So that lasted for about 6 weeks. So I had a couple trips to urgent care, a couple trips to the ER just to get fluids, because I was losing weight and I was scared that I was, you know, not getting enough nutrients and electrolytes. And, they ran tests on me, and they even did a CAT scan because they thought, oh, maybe it's your gallbladder. That was all negative. Nothing, again, everything was inconclusive. The only thing that I could really gather was that I had some virus that I had gotten. I tested negative for influenza, for COVID, for all of that, but some stomach virus that my body just could not fight off because my immune system was so compromised. And so that really scared me. I knew all along that that was a risk, kind of like when you're on chemotherapy, that you're at risk for getting these infections. And so I stopped taking those medications when I got sick and after I got better. And I told my rheumatologist that I was done. I said, if you don't have anything to offer me other than giving me medications, then I'm going to find my own way, because this is not how I want to live my life. And so then I started seeing someone in functional medicine, and she did some lab work and did start me on some supplements to calm down the inflammation. And, I really just started focusing on lifestyle, which I've always been an active person, ate generally healthy, but really focusing on like an autoimmune or a paleo diet to, again, just support the autoimmunity. And then I started digging deeper myself, and I did a food sensitivity test because I thought, well, what is causing my immune system to attack itself? Like what is triggering it? And so I did a food sensitivity test and figured out which foods I was sensitive to and eliminated those. I got mildly better, but never really, again, felt a ton better. And all along, when I had started seeing my functional medicine gal, she's a nurse practitioner, and she was urging me to get a test for Lyme's disease. And this isn't something that you can just do as a blood draw in the doctor's office. The conventional labs, I think it's called a Western blot. But it's not in depth, and it does not catch chronic Lymes. And so it's a special kit that you have to order. My initial one was done through DNA Connections, and did identify that I had 3 different strains or co-infections of Lyme's disease. And so then I kind of started putting some of the dots together, because with chronic Lyme's, it is known as the great imitator. So it can be misdiagnosed as fibromyalgia, as, some different chronic pain disorders. It can look like Parkinson's. It can look like MS, lots of different things. Lots of degenerative diseases. And so my husband also got tested, and he was positive. And we got a hold of, because he's also in the medical field, we got a hold of, we started listening to these different forums and podcasts, and learned a lot about this group out in California. They're called the Holtorf Medical Group. And this guy, Dr. Kent Holtorf, is one who designed or formulated these peptides. And so anyways, we went out to California earlier this month and saw one of his partners, and he had us do another test, a more conclusive test for all tick-borne diseases. And I found out that I also have something called rickettsia, Epstein-Barr, and then Powassan. So they're just different, again, co-infections of tick-borne diseases. And so I will start some therapies to help my body to recover, to attack the infection, because what happens with Lyme's disease is the infection, or the bacteria, they form what's called a biofilm. So it's like a little shell that they put around them, and that helps them to hide out in the body. And so that's why it's so hard to detect and why it's so hard to treat. So even people who, again, they've had chronic Lyme's disease for years and years, who knows how long, but they might get antibiotics and they still don't get better. It's because of that biofilm. The antibiotics cannot penetrate the biofilm, and that's why it's so difficult to treat. And so he is recommending that we do this therapy. It's called SOT, support oligonucleotide therapy, and we are trying to determine where we're going to go to have that done at, but as well as some peptides. And anyways, along this journey and figuring out that I've had Lyme's disease, and just with the chronic pain associated with the ankylosing spondylitis, and also my pelvis that is jacked up from when I was in a car accident, I started seeing a nervous system chiropractor in the Black Hills, and I can list all of these people too, so that if you're local and you're looking for somebody, you can contact them as well. But this chiropractor is a good friend of ours, and he does things a lot differently than most chiropractors. And so he has really been helping to get my nervous system regulated. Just the stress and the anxiety because of the disease has really affected me. But also, getting everything in alignment has really helped me to feel better, and I think just initiate my body to start healing itself and relaxing some of those bad like posture patterns that I've developed because of my my old pelvis fracture. And so anyways, that whole journey is again what kind of led me into becoming a health coach and a personal trainer, and now pursuing functional medicine, because I have just seen how broken our medical system is, and I see so many other people who are struggling. They're doctoring and seeing all these different specialists, and they're not finding out what's wrong with them. Or maybe they do have some abnormal labs and they're putting them on prescriptions, and they're not getting better, and then they're having side effects from the medication, so they're going on more prescriptions. I won't go down that whole rabbit hole, but I'm just really tired of seeing people suffer and nobody's figuring it out. I'm not saying that anybody who has chronic disease or chronic pain has Lyme's disease. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is now I'm in my functional medicine studies, I am really getting into the GI system, for example, and just how these chronic hidden infections in general are attacking the body, and again, looking like other conditions. And so, again, things like Epstein-Barr, mold, heavy metals, Clostridia. There's just so many different infections that, again, the standard labs aren't testing for, and you have to do stool testing, you have to do organic acids testing, and these very specific kits to figure out what's going on. But, most insurances don't pay for that, and so people are having to pay out of pocket, and I get that that's not accessible to everybody, and that's a shame, because I think everybody should have access to healthcare that is going to get them better. And I just hope and pray that someday that will change. But in the meantime, I am just here spreading my message, because again, I think that it's important for other people who, again, might be in my shoes, where they've gone through years and years of chronic pain or, debilitating symptoms, and all these specialists are running all these tests and not figuring out what's going on. I was just listening to a similar video of a gal. They have a center in Minnesota, That's actually one of the places where I'm looking at doing this SOT treatment. And she also had Lymes, and you know, she was telling her story as well. And you know, she struggled with her symptoms for 5 years, and then her mom heard somebody on the radio telling their story, and that's kind of what prompted her to get tested and finally get treated. And you know, it's not a quick fix. I'm not saying that once you figure out what's going on, you know, maybe it's Lyme's, maybe it's mold, maybe it's you know, heavy metals. Anyways, once you figure it out, it's not a quick fix where you're just gonna take a supplement or do some IV therapy or sauna for a week and you're gonna feel better. Like, it is a long journey. But what I want to say overall, my bottom line is just to not lose hope. If you don't have somebody who you know of who can run these tests, who can check into these things, you can reach out to me and I can find somebody that's close to you. I am teaming with a couple of practitioners here in the Black Hills to start a functional medicine clinic here in the near future, but it's very much in the early stages, so we're not yet seeing patients, but this is part of the treatment that we hope to offer in the future when we're open and running and well underway, is to offer support for Lyme's disease and some of these other chronic infections that again are leading to other chronic diseases. And so I just want to offer hope that there are other ways of dealing with these chronic diseases and chronic pains. And I just want you to know that you are heard, and I would love to hear your story if you have one or a family member. And yeah, please share this with someone else who might be going through something similar. And I hope that it would save someone else's life and get them feeling better and improve their quality of life, because that's my mission. That's my goal, is to decrease suffering and increase quality of life and fulfillment and joy and purpose. So I know that I was meant to help other people because of my own journey. And so I just yeah, I thank you for listening, and I just wish you wellness on your journey as well. Take care.